Hello out there in radio land, podcast land. Yeah, we've done a little switcheroo this morning, and I'm in the driver's seat. Mr. Long is in the passenger seat, and fact checker Bella is at my feet.
Yeah, she's right
she is right here, ready to call Mr. Long on any of his lies. Is that what you want to call them? Lies?
I prefer to say they're embellishments.
There you go. That's very harsh. A little hyperbole going on. Okay, so here we are at Long in the Boot. You know, Habs is living Habs life and doing his thing. So it's a gray day here in the Southwest Louisiana region of the state. So we decided to do a little something different because we're allowed to experiment because this is our podcast. And
yeah, we're paying the bills. We can do it.
There you go.
Yeah. Now you're in you've taken the con.
The con?
That's what they call it. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
Command chair.
Oh, the command chair. Yeah. Oh, so yeah. All right. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sci-fi stuff.
So you've got the good mic. I've got the less good mic.
I actually like that chair that you're in better.
Yeah. I kind of like this chair myself.
Yeah. It makes you feel powerful.
But anyway.
So I've got the buttons in front of me. If you would like to get in touch with G Long here at Long in the Boot,
you can comment to the Lovely Deborah too. I mean, it's not.
Oh yeah. Talk to me. That's fine.
I'm not like that. I let her out of the box every once in a while.
Oh, well, anybody that actually knows us knows how much of an embellishment that really is.
Absolutely.
All right. So here at Long in the Boot, if you want to give us a call and leave us a message, say how much you love it, how much you hate it. Don't be apathetic. Pick a side. The number is 337-502-9011. Do you need that again? Did you write it down?
They didn't write it down.
Well, it is a podcast. You're listening. You can listen to it again.
That's true.
All right. And at Gmail, we can do longintheboot@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Facebook at Long in the Boot.
Yeah, that's the Facebook page.
Yeah. We're just Facebook. We don't Twitter.
I haven't messed with the website in a little while.
And the website, yeah.
I got all thrown off because of the. We didn't even need to talk about it.
I know we don't need to go into that. If you're a regular listener, you know the process.
You know the score.
Yeah. Okay. So
we have faith in our listeners. We know they're smart.
Yeah. Well, point is, we don't Twitter. No. The Longs don't Instagram, Snapchat,
I don't Twitter,
TikTok.
Snapchat, TikTok. With any others?
I don't know. Unless it's a
Grinder. We don't do Grinder.
I do Stevie Ray Vaughan TikTok. That's fine.
Oh, that's
TikTok
not, they don't get that.
Then look it up.
Yeah.
Google it.
Learn
something.
Learn your Stevie Ray.
And that's kind of why we're here. I guess I can come around full circle to that, to learn something.
Yeah, sure.
And you may not learn anything. Maybe we do. Yeah. Maybe we do teach you something. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get some other topics here soon. We've just been school starting up.
School starting up. Actually, that's kind of where I have begun with this thought process in my head, which is processes. So now that we're back in school and we've got students in front of us, kind of a hybrid model, half-time, alternating days. So it's really small groups now. Either way, very small. I'm still really grateful to have kids, young people, not kids. My juniors and seniors are certainly young people now. They've had a rough go of it, just as all of us have, especially in our area. I don't know about you, but I'm glad to have people other than each other to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love you, baby, but
man.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say too, though, that these high school kids, people badmouth high school kids a lot. They really do.
I don't.
And I don't either.
Not really.
I see too many of them, and too many of my past high school students have turned into too good of people to let it go. But these teenagers recently have gone through a lot, and they are pretty darn resilient. I'm pretty impressed that mentally, I keep seeing things online about everybody's mentally damaged, and it's so depressing because of the pandemic. Yeah, it is. All that's true. But these kids are dealing with a lot and dealing with it pretty well.
Yes,
and a lot of them are working, doing jobs, helping their families maintain because some people have lost jobs. It's it's a testament to the families that raise these kids and to the kids themselves. And I say kids as
young
in,
people.
I just think of them as kids. They're really just pre-adults or they're adults really. At least the ones I have.
Yeah.
They're adults.
Because they have been working.
Well, and historically speaking, if you're 17 in the past, you were absolutely an adult.
Yes.
And I still consider them to be young adults, but I call them kids because that's just, easy.
Well, one group that I have that recently, as I'm talking about discussing things, I have a group of juniors and seniors, mostly seniors, and they are the young people who are going to go on into business and industry. They are not academia. They're not going off to college. Most of them have, as you said, especially in this area, been working.
So they're not going into debt is what you're saying.
Yeah. Most of them are going to get some scholarships and grants.
Well, they'll go into debt, but they're going to go into debt like a responsible American and get credit cards.
There you go. Well, and they're all, most of them are already doing things for certification. They've been working construction. They've been welding. I mean, this area was just so desperate after the hurricanes, and so they just went straight to work. Now we have asked them to come back into classrooms and to get that piece of paper.
And some of them see no real reason to do that.
Yeah, as I said, you got to get bona fide now. You need that piece of ticket. You need that piece of paper. So you're gonna follow this process, and that's really where I was with these young men, because the class is a technical writing class, and it's not. I said you're not going to be writing literature. This class is about writing specifications. This is writing for business and industry. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a welder. Well, is that your only goal? Are you going to just do welding for 20, 30 years and then finish up and retire and that's it?
Right.
So you have no idea where you may end up.
And how about this? Start your own welding company.
Exactly. And is it welding going to be the same kind of welding right now in 30 years or 20 years or even 10 years with technology? And so that led to a discussion. One of my young men, I taught his brother, and his brother has been out of school now for just 1 or 2 years, and he's not on the best path. And I said, processes, writing specifications, writing directions, and following a path in life is a process, and you just never know where you're going to end up. But I said, basically, not all who wander are lost. And then, as so often happens in the classroom, I know for both of us, I ended up talking about you.
Me?
Yes, you.
Why?
Well, because the process, how you got to Louisiana, was because you weren't exactly on the best path. And
no.
And again, not all who wander are lost. You may have been lost at the time or thought you were, but really the bad choices you were making in your youth that ended up getting you here, shipping you here, getting you kicked in the butt and sent here.
Well, yeah.
Was all, well, I guess to get to my loving arms was part of it.
Yeah, sure.
So did you want to elaborate a little bit on how you made your way down to the
boot?
The boot?
The long in the boot? How did I become the long in the boot?
Yes, exactly.
Well, first of all, let's just clear one thing up right away. I get asked a million times. I'm not a long from Louisiana. I've not, at least as far as I know, not connected to the longs of Louisiana in any way. I'm sure maybe somewhere in the past, but knowing what I know about the name, it's quite possible to have the name Long and not be related to other longs. It's doable because it was an add-on to a name. It usually was Long Acre or Long Street, or it was always that. So anyway, that's out. So how did I end up in Louisiana? You said bad mistakes. Yeah, I made a few bad decisions. Poor choices. When I finished high school, I was going to go into the Army, but that didn't work out because of my sudden aversion to pine pollen, which brought up a case of asthma like I had never had before.
And you don't like to follow rules
during a run. Now, as it turns out, it's probably best because I don't think I would have been a very good military person because I ask too many questions. I don't trust very easily.
Why? That being the number one. Yes,
why? Why do I need to do that?
Why do I need to dig that hole?
A good soldier doesn't ask why. Well, that tells me something.
You should be an officer.
Yeah, that's right. I want to be a dictator and tell other people what to do. So anyway, that didn't work out. I went home, fell into old habits, but I had lost my circle of friends that had all gone off to college or the military.
They had a path
or whatever. So I was not doing things well, and long story short, I had long story short, I had something that I was needing to pay for that was given to me in advance.
Yes,
and
on credit.
On credit, and that particular thing disappeared. And the person that disappeared as well. And but the person who gave it to me was very upset.
Loan sharks are like that.
We don't want to get into it too deep.
They want their pound of flesh.
Yes, and I didn't want to give a pound of flesh. Anyway, unbeknownst to me, my father was residing in Louisiana, and I was sort of shipped off to
go live with your father.
Yeah.
Wait, when was the last time you had seen your dad at that point?
About 9 years,
so
10 years. Hadn't talked to him.
What were you, like 11 when he left?
10-ish.
Okay.
10-ish. Yeah, that's about right.
Okay, so it comes to...
Anyway, so he's in Lake Charles, Louisiana, a place I knew nothing of. And I looked it up before I came down here because that's the kind of person I am.
Without the internet, folks.
Yeah, I actually had to go to the library.
Yeah.
No, actually, I had a set of encyclopedias. The problem was the encyclopedias were from 1962.
Oh, wow.
And so this is 19...
we had just had a hurricane back then,
82, 83. I believe it was 83.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Because I graduated.
So the encyclopedias I had were 20 years old. And according to them, Lake Charles was an incredibly small town, but it wasn't quite as small as the encyclopedias told me.
No, but it was.
But what I learned about Lake Charles before I got here was it's an oil town. I was really,
that was it. Except when you got here, the oil had gone bust.
It's going to change. Well, not yet. It was about
it
to.
It was on the cusp.
Yeah, when I got here, I arrived just in time to have the bottom of the oil market drop out.
Yeah, because your dad had guaranteed that he'd get you a job
in the oil fields
and all that, and none of that happened.
Yeah, none of that.
I can't see you covering.
Although I did come down and will say that right away, met many people that made being here much, much easier.
Yeah. Not your father.
None of whom were my father. My dad lived with a lady who named Iris LeBlue. I will say her name because she was the sweetest, most wonderful person ever.
And a great cook.
And a great man. Woo, the lady could cook.
And you said, I'm never leaving this place.
I ate things in that first week of being in Louisiana that I'd never eaten before.
Spice?
Yeah, actual spice.
Midwestern
in Missouri, it's unknown to many people. Well, now it's different. We're talking, a while back. And salt and pepper were about the only spices that were ever used in my house. And I got here and discovered a world of flavor.
That was a sad existence for you.
Well, I didn't know that, though.
Yeah,
I had nothing to compare
it to. Yeah, now you do.
The only spicy you got was like barbecue, things like that. You didn't really get hot and spicy.
All right, we won't get into the Kansas City barbecue discussion.
Well, there's no discussion. It's the best barbecue. I just don't know why people even argue this point.
All right, talk to me.
Anyway, so the lady that my dad lived with allowed me to live in her home and
run with her kids.
Yeah, and I met her kids, and she had a lot of kids. There was a bunch of them,
Catholics,
bunch of the blues. And
speaking of Catholics and kids,
but just wonderful lady. And my dad also had friends from previous. I met a gentleman who was pretty close to my own age, and he was the son of a lady my dad had previously lived with. My dad never married again after leaving my mom.
Best for
all concerned.
Yes.
He was doing every woman a favor by not marrying them. And so I got to run with those people. And Lake Charles was a small town. When I arrived, compared to what I'd grown up in, it was very different. Growing up in the suburbs of Blue Springs and hanging out in Kansas City and stuff prepares you in no way for a small southern Louisiana, and about as southern as you can get in Louisiana.
It's short of Cameron. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be in the Gulf. You go another 40 miles. I arrived in July.
Yes.
And learned
said,
very quickly about
oh my
humidity.
God, is this hot?
Yeah, it was miserable.
And they all said, it ain't hot yet.
Yeah. And got work right away at a convenience store back in you're older, you young people, you can ask your grandparents about it, but it was the Wizard stores. They had a whole bunch of convenience stores in Lake Charles, and they were all the Wizard stores. And instead of ices, they had slush puppies. And
we did not know each other at that point. However, we were very close in proximity when you were working at that Wizard store.
Yeah, you were a block away. You lived about a block away.
I did. I probably went in there and
oh sure,
yeah, you probably.
I probably sold you some some smokes.
And no, never a smoker here.
Zigzags.
No, not at that point in my life, dear.
Bound to have sold you something.
You sold me something, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Probably a slushy.
Yeah, mad dog.
No, although the drinking and driving rules back then were a lot more lax. I mean, 15, you could have a full driver's license.
I got robbed within about 3 weeks of being here.
Yeah. And then you moved on to Pit Grill. I also worked at a Pit Grill.
Worked at a Pit Grill, the one that used to be on Broad Street.
Yeah.
And it was that was a truly eye-opening experience.
I'm sure it was.
Combined with everything else that was going on.
For a white boy from a white suburban
suburban
area.
white boy from Missouri.
But you did all right.
Yeah. In fact, I enjoyed.
You know why? Because you're not a disrespectful person.
No, I have manners.
Exactly.
Sirs and ma'ams and
treat people like human beings.
Although I was corrected right away at the convenience store one time because coming from Missouri, people say you want me to put that in a sack.
Oh yeah,
and I said you want a sack for that, and I was corrected. It's bag.
Yes.
And the lady was like mad, and I was like, what? It's bag. A sack is anatomy. And I was like,
oh, all right.
And I was just like,
all right,
okay. And I never really used it.
You never used it again.
No,
exactly,
I did not.
Exactly. I had to correct a person about a hang and hung, and I said, no, people are hanged. Horses and curtains are hung. And she I will never forget that. Thank you. So there's just something about that anatomy references, that will stick with people sometimes.
Yeah, and so anyway, the Broad Street Pit Girl, I was the minority at that store as far as employees go,
yeah.
But everyone there welcomed me with open arms. I was treated so well, and it was also my first experience at race relations in the South versus other places. It was really,
because we mix here.
Well, that was part of it. That was, yes and no. Right away, you realize that there is a difference. The South in the racial aspect of the South is just different.
It is a different feeling. It's hard to put your finger on it.
And I say this, but say was different. Everything has changed in regards to a lot of that.
Audience, we are talking about the 80s.
Yes, we're talking about the 80s.
We are back in time.
The early
now.
80s. And so Lake Charles was it was just different, but I got invited to Thanksgiving that I'll never forget. I also met I refer to all the folks that my dad had been married to their mothers as my sort of step siblings.
Yeah, even though there was no legal paper.
Had a really Iris Lulu had a daughter named Carolyn who I was 1920. She was 30 something.
Yeah.
But she introduced me to all kinds of people. Introduced me to a motorcycle guy named Puff, who used to have a shop down on Broad Street.
And then her guy, Peanut. Peanut was a great guy.
Well, Peanut was the other lady my dad lived with, son. That was Betty's son, Peanut.
And Caroline and Peanut.
And folks in my classes that are now adults know that I've told Peanut stories before.
That's because he was a character.
He was a character. Lived out
hardworking guy, though.
Hardworking, never got past the 6th grade.
Very frugal with his money.
Always had money. Worked his tail off.
Yes, he did.
And lived out off the bayou. Yeah. And just a great guy, and who I can't locate anymore. After Rita, I lost track of him and never did find him again.
Yeah. Well, Peanut wasn't one for being connected.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't tied to anything.
No,
he's a drifter.
Yeah. He was a bit of a drifter.
And I don't mean that in a bad way.
He could run a trout line. He could.
He's a country boy. Yeah. That's right. He's a country boy, can't survive. He is the archetypical.
So we hope he's out there surviving somewhere.
And hopefully he's out there, doing well and thriving. And
okay, so you made your way down here. It wasn't long before we met because I graduated in '82, and we both ended up at the same Pat O'Carroll's restaurant.
Yeah, well, for you folks who don't know, the original Pat O'Carroll's restaurant was on 1016 East Pryon Lake Road.
Lake Road.
It's where the captain's table or whatever it's called now.
Yes, captain's table now.
It was a dairy barn. It was a Shillelagh's at one time.
It was, for us it was Shillelagh's and Pat O'Carroll's.
But Pat O'Carroll's is what it was. It was one of the only places in
Pat
Lake
was
Charles.
The catalyst, I think, for us and so many others. Well,
and a lot of stuff happened while we worked there.
We won't tell those stories today.
I'll tell a few of them stories.
Well, we need to try to keep focus today.
Yeah, but I will say that understand that in Lake Charles at that time, as far as restaurants that were open,
we
reasonably late and had a bar, there were only about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't that much in Lake Charles. It was totally a gas and oil town. Even downtown Lake Charles, Ryan Street, for you young folks used to only go one direction. You could only go down towards the river. You couldn't come back up Ryan Street.
Yes, we'd go down by the ice packing plant. Drive back there.
And River Road down there.
Yeah.
And
man, I hadn't been there in years. I wonder what it looks like after the hurricanes. I'll bet that's kind of
messy back there.
Yeah,
or they've all cleaned it up and it's just gone.
No, driving through town, nothing's cleaned up. Yesterday it was 2 mattresses and a bucket.
Well, I meant before the hurricane. They probably knocked all that stuff down a long time ago.
I've talked about my adventures
driving. When I did photography for a while, I went down there and did a couple shoots at the old ice packing plant because it was just a good rustic looking building for doing black
primitive.
and white photography. Yeah. And another long story. And anyway, so yeah, it was just a very small town. And the folks that kind of had the town, there was about 5 or 6 families that really kind of ran the town. Yeah. They kept development from happening. It was really weird. That was one of those weird things from an outsider's perspective. It was almost as if they didn't want people to come to Lake Charles.
Yeah, Chenault was sitting over there
unused. Although you could drive right onto Chenault and drive up and down the airstrip.
Yeah.
And
our time spent in the old barricks there in the little apartment.
Yeah. And it was
those walls were cinder block, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you recall.
Oh yeah. Cinder block walls. And pictures don't hang very well on cinder block walls.
No.
You had to glue them.
Hey, that was good times. Good times. The salad days.
But Lake Charles was weird too, though. Like when I moved here, they had there was a huge gay community in Lake Charles.
Oh, kind of underground.
Underground.
Yeah. Crystals was just about to open.
Yeah, it hadn't even opened yet.
It hadn't opened
yet. The big place
yet.
was on Broad. It was called the Paragon.
We couldn't get any concerts. They
music.
wouldn't let Ozzy come.
In fact, when I arrived, they announced an Ozzy Osbourne concert at the Civic Center.
And you thought,
I had just seen Ozzy Osbourne in Kansas City. So I was like, oh, awesome. So I went and bought tickets, all excited, watching the news, KPLC one morning, and the church people were on there talking about how it was going to destroy Lake Charles if Ozzy Osbourne came because he was a Satanist and all that other nonsense.
Yeah, that whole bat thing.
The bat thing. And they didn't even bring up the peeing on the Alamo, which is in fact true.
Snorting a line of ants.
Well, that was
that was
later.
True as well.
Just don't talk about Ozzy.
Oh, poor Sharon.
Sharon.
Poor Sharon.
The ants are in my brain again.
You want ants? Because that's how you get ants.
How you get ants. But anyway, so yeah, there you go. That's
so you didn't get your Ozzy.
That's how I got to the boot and discovered that there was a lot of weirdness here.
Yeah.
Not to say again, immediately I kind of decided I was here.
Yeah.
I didn't, as soon as I got here, I didn't really pine away for going home.
To get home.
Because that's really what my problem was. I needed to leave.
Exactly. And that was
I needed to rebuild myself.
So now, thank you for the segue back into this whole process and idea that.
That's because I'm smart, see? Smart.
Because you picked me, see? So that was what I was, but isn't that what you love about me?
That's what I appreciate about you.
That's what you appreciate. So I said, the story he told me wasn't so severe that I felt like, this young man was going to go off the rails and end up in a bad place. So that was my point to him, that you had been on a path that wasn't really serving you.
No, it wasn't.
And it wasn't going to get you anywhere good.
Well, it would be good each night when I got,
but that's not a future.
Altered.
Yeah.
But
that's not a future.
No, that's definitely not a future.
Kind of not dealing with reality.
Well, it's getting rid of it completely.
Yeah. And so I said, and my husband, without again going into lots of details, I said, and now look at him. He's a mostly responsible, respectable citizen, giving back to the community. And I said, it'll be all right. The majority of my students, even kids that I worried about as during the year or time that I had them, for the most part, 95% of them have gone on to be fine human beings. whether they made straight A's, straight F's, didn't attain what I thought they might be able to attain.
Even the ones who feel like they were tortured by teachers,
other students, the bullying,
they've
those
all
things.
moved on.
For the most part, it feels like they have. Now, I say that because I see them superficially on Facebook, although some are not superficial.
I will say that a few, I've seen their name in the paper.
Well, yeah, but that's the 5%, or the ones we've lost.
Or the one I don't know still to this day when I had to go to the jail to get my fingerprints.
The one that hollered at you.
I went to get, in Beauregard Parish, I went to get my fingerprints from my carry conceal. And they have stairs that go up to an area where I'm assuming the jail cells are. Don't know, haven't been there. Anyway, I was walking past these stairs. I just hear from upstairs, "Hey, Mr. Long." To this day, I have no idea who that was.
Who was being incarcerated in the Beauregard Parish jail? Well, that wasn't prison, though. That was just jail.
No, that's just jail.
Yeah, so they couldn't have been too serious.
Well, that's what I say about Louisiana. It's when you get here, it's like jail. You'll get out if you want to, but it'll change you.
The bayou does strange things to a man. You see how I changed that?
I did. I saw that. So, okay.
All right. So our students are going to be okay, just like you were okay. And you wandered and floundered a little bit, but eventually you
Well, trying to find work because, again, Lake Charles went into a depression not too long after I got here because the price of oil completely collapsed and oil fields closed.
Yeah. So you're left with the restaurant
businesses
industry.
Closed, and all that we had were restaurants. And back then,
there weren't many of those.
There weren't very many of them, so they didn't have to pay you well.
No,
because there was no competition for labor.
Minimum wage for a server at that time was $2.13 an hour, but you did not pay tax.
That's still the minimum wage for servers.
Is it? I thought it was like $3 something now.
Nope.
Or really?
Really?
And they pay.
And back then it was like $1. I think I want to say $1.80 something. Because I know that in 1993.
Okay.
Which is the first year I started when I finally decided to go to college, way late.
Well, but that was
but my point is in 1993, minimum wage was $4.25.
Okay.
So I think waiters and waitresses at that time it's like $1.83 or something.
Yeah, and that was my point though, because it was in the 80s when the federal government decided that, they're cleaning up on all this cash money. We need to tax them on those tips that are coming in. So they decided that a server's nightly sales, they would tax 8% on the sale of food, assuming that you made gratuity of at least,
That's why they
15%.
Encourage people to get credit cards and use credit cards for meals and stuff because it's easier to keep track of what
exactly. And so, look, here's my spiel. I'll say it. I've been saying it. I argue it all the time. If you don't want to add a tip or gratuity, don't go to a restaurant. That server is
no, you can go to McDonald's.
Well, yeah, but don't go to a sit-down place and have somebody wait on you and not. Now, if they're bad at their job, that's a whole different conversation. But otherwise, they are paying 8% on the food you order in tax.
And I've worked in enough restaurants over the years, too, that waiters and waitresses get punished often for the mistakes of the kitchen.
Yes.
If your food is slow coming out, it's not the waiter and waitress's fault almost always. Occasionally
it is.
They forget to put in a ticket. That does happen. But generally, if your food is late, it's the kitchen. Mm-hmm. If your food is badly cooked, it's absolutely the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Don't take it out on your waiter or waitress. Complain to the manager about the kitchen, but don't take it out on the waiter or waitress.
And sometimes there's an expediter who puts the meal together, who puts the plate together, and that may be on them.
We could do a whole show on restaurants. I mean,
we could do several. Yeah, because those years. But that's the point. In Lake Charles at that time, that's really about all you had.
If you weren't. If you didn't have some kind of training, and even if you did, a lot of people just left.
Look, back then, McNeese was called Ryan Street High. I mean, Suella wasn't really a thing.
It was, but it wasn't very good. It wasn't run very well.
No, Suella has done some
I took an electrical course there, and about the 5th or 6th day in, when the teacher had not spoken and got up from behind the desk, I just said, you know what? Clearly, I'm going to learn nothing here.
Yeah, no, I know a story of a person who went to do the CNA program back in the late 80s there. And some of the other students were smoking in the bathroom.
Not cigarettes.
No, not cigarettes. And, and that person felt the same way.
It's much better now.
It's like, I'm not going to learn anything here. So
much more professional now.
If you're a student and you don't feel like you're getting an education, it makes it really difficult to get up and go every day.
Yeah.
So my students now are, as I told him, your brother's going to be all right. Are you worrying about me putting my feet on the desk again?
Well, I guess it's okay since you're in the command chair.
I am. I still like my chair over there better, and I'd rather Habs be in it. But
hey,
you take what you can.
Hey, man, I'm in this chair. I'm the guest.
So now you're in the boot.
Serve me.
Now you're in the boot. You are gainfully employed for the most part. Yeah, for the most part.
And crap jobs in some cases, but
yeah, okay. But you're making it.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting by.
And you realized quickly that you and your father were not going to be a long-term.
Oh, we weren't going to be friends. No.
Not going to be friends.
The people he lived with were much better people than my father.
Was, yeah.
And not to trash my father because
he's not here. He can't defend himself. I'll do it because if you had stayed living with him.
He'd be more than honest. One of the things about my dad is he never apologized for who he was.
No, he was an SOB.
He would have been the first one to tell you he was an SOB and he wasn't going to change. And that goes a long way.
And that was best that he left.
That's why he didn't have long-term relationships with really anyone.
No.
But that's a whole nother thing. And I'm sure there are young people dealing with similar situations all over the place. But at some point, you just have to kind of brush them off and move on. And the best way to do that is if somebody makes you feel crappy, don't be around them.
Yeah, don't stay too long. Recognize that you can't change that, and you might as well move on.
It's on you.
On your path. If
you're in school and you still have no place to go because you're too young,
then you do what you need.
You just suck it up, and you can get out.
And that's part of the learning.
Get out.
That's part of the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've always said that if your dad had stayed in your life as a young man and that had been your role model, I'm pretty sure that we would not be a couple. I don't think that you would have been the man that you are.
There's a good chance that one of the other kids that I played sports with or something's dads may have shot him for all I know.
Had he stayed up there?
He could rub people the wrong way really quickly. He was a master.
He could. However, now
and then again, he could be the most charming individual.
I was going to say he had his moments. He was very well read. He was a smart person. He may not have made good life choices, but he was intelligent.
Very
intelligent enough to know that his family did not benefit by
I give him credit for leaving. Actually, and I'm not trashing him for leaving.
No,
as a 9 or 10-year-old boy, you need that role model. But then again, he obviously knew that it wasn't for him. Mm-hmm. So
So ultimately, you had a mother and a sister and no father at home. I had a father and no siblings and no mother at home.
Yeah, it works out. All the gaps get filled.
I guess because you do get baggage. Guys, you're not going to get through life without some baggage.
Yeah, you get baggage. It's given to you. You win.
Is it carry on?
Tell us what he's won, Johnny. Well, he's won baggage.
He's got some baggage. Hopefully your baggage has wheels and it's easy to tote.
That's right, Bill. This baggage will follow him for the rest of his life. Put it in the closet.
That's it. It wasn't long after you got here, though, that we finally did meet at our little Pat O'Carroll's jobs. I handed you your application.
Yep. And you were working behind the bar.
Yeah, and I said, don't trust him.
As a responsible, 17-year-old?
Yes, actually, that was, yes. I had been babysitting. I had started by waiting tables, and I was all right with that because I can multitask quite well. But then the manager at the time had a small child and no husband, and I was also good with children, so I was babysitting for her, and it was more convenient for her and my schedule if she had me bartending, so she put me behind the bar.
There you go.
No bar cards back then. You didn't do any of that.
The drinking age was 18.
And I was really good with people behind the bar. It was like a stage, so I kind of did all
Pat
that.
O'Carroll's bar was really amazing.
It was hopping.
It was big.
It was. There wasn't a whole lot of that. You could go down to the Say2. I mean, you could go down to Chenault and go there and
do country music.
See Wayne Toops. And
dance on the sandy floor.
Yeah.
And because you had to have sand on the floor so you could slide.
So you could slide that little Cajun two-step.
And that's where I first happened across Charles Mann.
I almost forgot about him.
Little Alfred.
Yeah, and Little Alfred. No. And you still never got into dancing.
No, I never did.
That was sad for me.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
I like to dance.
And Glenn can't dance.
No, Glenn can't dance. A white boy don't dance.
I do good walking. If I walk without breaking a toe, I'm doing well. I'm a bit of a klutz.
All right.
I have my moments, but it's just a sad situation. What's that?
Are you ready to wrap up?
Well, I guess we could. I mean, sure, it's 35 minutes minus the editing. And, I wish we could do these live. I would love people to be able to call in when we do this.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it though. Yeah. I'll have to find out. I'm sure there's a way it can be done.
What if we got distracted and got off track?
Well,
What if we went down some weird rabbit hole?
I think all of my former students will back me up when I say that never happens.
Never occurs at all. Those are some of those most teachable moments.
Well, I get
just
that
like
from
that
former students. Yeah. In fact, the thing about, I loved your class, Mr. Long, because you'd always get off track and tell stories. And it's like, yeah, but the story still had a purpose.
Yeah, they always came back. Generally, you're connecting, you're bridging history with current events or just life lessons.
Because people don't change.
No. And the history books never tell you the most exciting things.
No, the really gross stuff is never put in the history books.
Just the most exciting stuff. You never get that.
Or they never explain it in real terms. You know, you can... I always go back to Henry VIII as the example of here was a guy who just wanted to get laid, and he ended up changing an entire religion. You know, it's kind of crazy. There's all kinds of that stuff throughout history, and now that I've got a couple of history classes, I haven't been doing history classes for a couple of years.
Yeah, and it's hard to get in a routine and a rhythm right now. We are struggling.
Really
with
tough because just all the problems at school. But I do try to make it fun. I think that history has a lot of valuable lessons, and it also helps you see through the BS, because there's always BS being thrown up in your face. And it's also one of those things with history is when I was growing up, and you too, we're at the age, and everybody my age, 58, everybody my age was given this like book of history stories that it turns out much of is just flat out false.
They're lies, yes.
Or they would change
embellishments.
And for example, you know, when we were growing up, Columbus was portrayed as this intrepid hero who crossed an ocean and discovered a new world.
Now there's a vehement hate for him.
Well, I don't think you should get that either.
No.
I'm willing to say he was brave. Anybody who jump on one of those little boats and go across that ocean, I consider pretty brave. But let's not kid ourselves. He wasn't nice to the Arawak Indians that were on the island of Hispaniola when he found them. And in fact, he was so not nice, and the people that followed him were so not nice, that those Indians aren't around anymore.
Yes.
So, you know, that's one of those things. And I think, but of course, you've got people now who would say Columbus should never even be spoken of.
Well, no,
that's not right either.
So we're back to that idea of you can't edit history that way.
Yeah. I get asked all the time, why did I become a history teacher? Mm-hmm. That may be part of it, is that I think history should be taught truthfully as best we can.
Well, and not judging it based on your modern sensibilities.
Right.
And it allows you to look back and see those patterns. Unfortunately, as individuals, you don't see the patterns in your own life until you're older. You don't recognize them as you're living it, moving through it. And then here you are, you know, as a 58-year-old.
Yeah.
Looking back and seeing those points in your life. Again, back to the start, which is your process has been to seemingly wander, but you did have a path that was...
Look, all wisdom is, and they always say, you know, oh, he's so wise. Yeah, that's because wisdom comes from the sum total of all of your mistakes and what you've learned from those mistakes.
Exactly.
And what you do to alter your behavior so you don't repeat those mistakes.
Yes.
That's wisdom in a nutshell.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Not thinking that I know it all already and you can't teach me anything. No. Life will teach you. The
one thing you know, if you study history enough, is you know nothing.
Yes.
And there's always room to know more. And that's, again, history is one of those things. I'm a huge believer in. And by the way, for all you politicians and supposed education experts who think history is not important anymore, up yours. Okay, just real simple. Up yours.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
It's of great value.
Well, look, we teach world history now, but you know when we start, the Renaissance.
And you leave out?
And we leave out everything before the Renaissance. We leave out Chinese and Asian history. We leave out Islamic history.
Because they didn't have one.
We leave out all the history of the rest of the world, but we still call the class world history.
No. So basically, you've got a puzzle with bunches of pieces missing. How are you, as a student or as a person living in modern society, supposed to understand how we are at the point we are in with all of these countries? And
we used to teach world history starting with basically civilization, prehistory.
Yeah.
You start there. So now what we do is we send kids off to college who had world history starting in the Renaissance.
Yes.
So they got professors now who go, well, they don't know anything about humanism and about scholasticism and about all the isms that came before. Well, that's why, because our curriculum is not developed that way.
I'm upset that 11th grade American literature is now basically, well, in a normal year, 4 books and nothing else. You don't do timeline. You don't understand.
How about British Lit? You don't do British Lit at all, really.
Yeah. No.
I mean, British Lit and world history go together.
So for those that do go to college, that leaves a large gap. But apparently the skills that you teach by teaching one book and all of the accompanying texts that go with it will be enough to get them through college.
Now, you know that all these kids need to do is to be able to write a 5-paragraph essay on some informational topic, and they will be a success.
I think that's the place to stop. I think that before we go further down a rabbit hole that is going to get one of us in trouble.
Who would get in trouble? I don't teach English.
And I'm not going to complain about. In
fact, I wouldn't teach English unless we bring British literature back to the forefront. Seniors need British lit. Every senior should have to do Hamlet.
So
you know why? Body count.
Just a sheer
body count.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of English teachers who feel like Shakespeare should not be taught anymore.
Absolutely. Oh, he's irrelevant.
I disagree.
Oh,
fact checker.
Fact check.
Yeah.
Fact check true.
It's funny how that works for you either way.
All right. So I guess we're going to wrap it up. Well, wait a minute. So how was it? How was you didn't change the butt print in my chair, did you?
Well, I don't know.
You probably did.
Well,
I don't have much of a butt.
I'm a Cajun woman. I have a Cajun physique. Anybody that knows any Cajun women know what I mean. Short, round, stout. Yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you feel about it? You feel like you did pretty good?
Oh, I don't know. I never know.
Okay, so there you go, kids. If you think Miss Long held the command chair with authority, please call at 337-502-9011. And if you actually just really, really miss me being in the command chair.
They probably miss Habs. They probably
I miss Habs a little bit.
I miss Habs too, because then I could have been doing.
Well, he had some information this week.
He did, but we're not.
I'm not going to share it.
We're not going to reveal that.
It's big. I'm not. He revealed it.
On Facebook, but these people.
Well, if you want to know, just go to his Facebook page and you can see his reveal.
Yeah.
And,
or you can just wait.
All right. I'll spill the beans. He got his pilot's license. He bought a plane. He's got a Cessna.
And he's out hunting caribou from the sky.
From the Cessna.
Which is
and bears.
And bears. And he's probably going to bring a baby caribou home.
Well, but alive. I mean, he's not going to.
Yeah, no.
No, he's just going to kill the mother. He's bringing the baby home.
That's Disney. That's right. Not Habs.
I'm sorry, that's a Disney movie.
All right. So, lesson today, not all who wander are lost. Children? That you can make some bad life decisions in some cases and still come out an all right, respectable citizen.
Provided you don't die in the car wreck.
Provided you don't die, because I was going to say, there are some that you don't come back from. I know I've read all those quotes, you can always make it better. Not if you're dead.
Before we praise all of my decisions, just know that I survived several incidents that could have led to my demise.
Oh, well, yeah. We were raised in the 60s. I didn't know what a seatbelt was.
Including that psycho at Pat O'Carroll's. That's a Pat O'Carroll story.
Naokis?
No, well, yes, him too. The guy with the AR-15 in the trunk of his car.
Okay, no, we'll save that.
We'll save that story.
So here we go.
Although, just for future reference, kids, you can remind me later. Man, college, angry, trunk, AR-15.
paddle carols.
Glenn Long runs.
We all did. We got down and hid on the floor and turned all the lights off. The whole restaurant that was there that night was scared. Thank you, Tim Smith.
Thank goodness there was lots of booze flowing. That sure helped.
Thank you, Tim Smith. No, I was the bartender. I was the always sober
You
one.
were sober.
I always stayed sober.
I was sober. I only had like 3 or 4 Long Island teas by that point. I was perfectly fine.
So if you want to know the result, you need resolution to some of this. Habs will make his reveal when he's here next.
Sure.
We need to remember to tell the Paddle Carol's automatic weapons story, and then the Naokas. We got to come back to the Indian.
There's
Naokas had several.
Native American. Still crazy. It doesn't change anything.
Shouldn't have been drinking. No. Don't give in. No. All right. You're going to let us know what you think, how you're feeling, and what.
Now, when you want to wrap it up, what you have to do is you have to hit the white button again.
The white button to bring out the music.
It will bring up the sounder.
I've really come to love your music.
I also have... I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take anymore. It's the right purple button.
I'm not feeling that way today.
Okay, well, I guess then we're going to wrap it up and say goodbye. Say goodbye, Lovely Deborah.
Goodbye.
Lovely Deborah.
Well, that just feels weird. Should I talk about myself in the third person?
Say goodbye, Glenn.
Goodbye, Glenn.
No, you say goodbye, Glenn.
Say goodbye, Glenn.
Goodbye, Glenn. Fished in.
Hello, Bella.
You're not supposed to talk while the music's playing.
Look at that cute face.
I know, it's true.
She's adorable.
Oh, the dog.
Your dimples are cute.